Hello, welcome to PMQs with Graham Hughes. All you need to do now is press the OK button on there, so that turns on. And we'll go ahead straight across over to Parliament, where we have
trials. We know
the Speaker, speaking. He is speaking. Right, let's get into it.
Question number 1, please, Mr. Speaker, and happy birthday to you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last week, I noted the helicopter crash in Devon, and I want to put on record our sincere condolences to the families of Lieutenant Commander Chris Gayson, Lieutenant Lily Mae Fisher, and Petty Officer Owen Green. Our thoughts are with their families at this tragic time. Mr. Speaker, I also send my condolences to the family of Michael Story. Michael worked as a driver in Number 10 for over 2 decades. He was a remarkable gentleman, held in the highest regard by all that knew him, and will be deeply missed. Mr. Speaker, people are rightly sickened by the horrific attack on Monday night in North Belfast. As you have just said, the man arrested has been in court in Belfast this morning and charged. I want to thank the Police Service of Northern Ireland and other first responders and members of the public who responded with such bravery. And our thoughts are with the victim. But let me be clear, Mr. Speaker. The acts of violence and arson that followed are totally unjustified. This morning I spoke with the First Minister, the Deputy First Minister and the Chief Constable. And the Secretary of State for Northern Ireland is meeting leaders in Belfast today. We are united in calling for calm and determined to restore order, support the police and all those on the front line, and ensure that justice is done. On a lighter note, Mr. Speaker, as the World Cup gets underway, I'd like to wish the best of luck to both Scotland and England. And I too would like to wish you happy birthday. Mr. Speaker, this morning I have meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in this House, I shall have further such meetings later today.
Melanie Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and let me associate myself with the Prime Minister's remarks about the situation in Northern Ireland and about the Scottish football team. Mr. Speaker, the existence of Israeli settlements and settler violence against Palestinians is a major and deliberate impediment to peace. By working with Israeli human rights researchers, I have uncovered 32 British charities which are funnelling money to Israeli settlements on Palestinian land. Last week, I submitted a formal complaint to the Charity Commission about them. In the last 5 years, they've sent over £28 million to illegal settlements, with a likely taxpayer subsidy through gift aid of more than £5 million. Our constituents will be appalled by this. Does the Prime Minister agree that funnelling money to Israeli settlements is extremist activity, not charitable activity? And will he be clear that it is banned?
Prime Minister.
Can I thank my honourable friend? Settlements are a flagrant breach of international law, and no UK charity should be supporting them. And the Middle East Minister met the Charity Commission today to discuss these concerns. We announced yesterday further sanctions against those who support settler violence, and we will continue to look at strengthening those sanctions. British businesses should have no economic involvement in illegal settlements. And let me just say, the situation across Palestine remains desperate, and the UK will continue to lead efforts to prevent human suffering and get aid in and preserve the viability of a two-state solution.
Leader of the Opposition, Kemi Badenoch.
Mr. Speaker, can I also wish England and Scotland the very best in the World Cup? Can I wish you a very happy birthday, Mr. Speaker, many happy returns. And may I take the opportunity to associate myself with the remarks that the Prime Minister made about the helicopter crash, our condolences to their family and, of course, to the family of Michael Story as well. Can I also thank him for his short statement on Belfast? The scenes in Belfast are deeply, deeply disturbing. A man is in hospital after a brutal attack, and now families are frightened after a night of violence. There is a live criminal case, so we must be careful about what we say. But we can be clear about this. People have a right to be angry. I am angry. And people have the right to expect their politicians to secure our borders. But no one has a right to burn families out of their homes or to burn public property and attack the police. We all have a duty to stand up for public safety in every way. Mr. Speaker, last night, America carried out strikes on Iran in response to the downing of a US helicopter. This comes just days after renewed attacks on Ukraine. The world is getting more dangerous, and the British public want to know this government is doing everything it can to protect our national security. So can the Prime Minister tell the House, will the full defence investment plan finally be published this week?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, can I agree with her that in relation to both Iran and Ukraine, we're facing a more volatile world than at any time during our lifetimes. Mr. Speaker, so far as defence is concerned, we've already taken a number of measures. We've increased defence spending from 2.3% to 2.6% in 2027. That's spending £270 billion over this Parliament. We've carried out a strategic review of defence, and we're committed to publishing the Defence Investment Plan before the NATO summit, which is in just a few weeks' time.
Kemi Badenoch.
That sounded like a no, Mr. Speaker. We have wasted 2 years waiting for the Defence Investment Plan. Projects have been put on hold, and Britain is getting weaker with every passing day. It has been reported that the Chief of the Defence Staff told the Prime Minister that the Ministry of Defence needs an extra £28 billion. Will that requirement be met in full?
Mr. Speaker, we'll set out the Defence Investment Plan. It is the it's a 10-year plan, and it's the first line-by-line review of defence budgets in 18 years. She's wrong to say it's been delayed by 2 years, Mr. Speaker. The Defence Strategic Review was published a year ago. We've been working through the details to make sure that we get this right. We are the government that has increased defence spending from 2.3 to 2.6%. I remind the party opposite, when they came into power, defence spending was 2.5%, and they took it down to 2.3%. We've taken it up to 2.6%. The defence investment, by 2027, the defence investment plan will be published before NATO. We've already signed 1,400 major defence contracts. 94% of those, Mr. Speaker, are with British businesses. And as the Defence Secretary said, that includes helicopters made in Yeovil, drones in Swindon, armoured vehicles in Telford. And we've also given our armed forces the biggest pay rise in over 20 years. That's Labour making investment to safeguard our national security.
Okay.
Mr. Speaker, can I welcome the pay rise for the armed forces? But the Prime Minister says he's increased defence spending. He's not. This year, he's cutting it by £3.5 billion. What he's talking about is hopeful increases, which we don't know if he will do because there is still no defence investment plan. At a time that we need leadership, Mr. Speaker, we have total paralysis. It is reported that the Chancellor is only willing to find £13 billion for the dip. At the London Defence Conference last year, the Prime Minister said defence would be the central organising principle of his government. How can that be the case when he's giving the armed forces less than half of the minimum that they need?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we've already increased defence spend. We will spend £270 billion in this Parliament. What did they do on spend? They took it from 2.5% and they cut it to 2.3%. And we'll take no lectures from them.
Hey, no lectures.
They stand at the heart of a government that failed our armed services. They cut frigates and destroyers by 25%. They cut mine hunters by 50%. They cut the army from 100,000 down to 72,000. They missed army recruitment targets every single year for 14 years. And they left morale in the armed forces at an all-time low. So we'll take no lectures from them on defence and security of our country.
More lectures.
Mr. Speaker, we've heard him say this about 100 times. There is still no defence investment plan. He is the Prime Minister now, at least I think he is. Should I be calling Andy Burnham instead to ask these questions?
This is ridiculous. He said it's going to be a few weeks.
He's dithering.
He's already answered it.
He doesn't know where the money is coming from.
He said it would be published before the NATO summit in a few weeks.
Are watching.
He said that.
He has only 3 options.
You're wasting your questions here.
Spending, more borrowing, or higher taxes.
She's wasting their questions.
We know that the Chancellor wants to put up tax to pay for it. Will the Prime Minister rule out raising taxes?
Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, she asked the House to simply ignore the last 14 years under one. So we may have failed the armed forces, hollowed them out, but please just forget all that and act as if it didn't happen.
He drops off at the end of a
can't
sentence. He doesn't finish the sentences.
The damage they did to our armed services.
He leaves off the last word of a sentence.
Speaker,
Just
if
that all
she
the
says
time.
forget all that, I remind the House, when they left office, 47 out of 49 major defence contracts were delayed or over budget. That is what we are fixing. And you can't just scrub away and forget. I know they want to forget the last 14 years in power, so do the British public. That's why they're sitting over there. But, Mr. Speaker, we've increased defence spending. We are going to publish the Defence Investment Plan, and that will be done before the NATO summit coming up in just a few weeks' time.
So he's answered the question again.
Mr. Speaker, I remember when the last government led Europe when we were fighting the war in Ukraine. When Russia invaded, we were ready. We supplied Ukraine with munitions.
Sorry, I don't want to talk over it too much. She's just wasting her questions here. She's asked 4 questions, and each one she said, when are you going to publish the defence plan? The first question was, are you going to publish it this week? To which he said, we are going to publish it before the NATO summit in a few weeks' time. That was the answer to the first question. And then she asked again and again and again. She's going to ask the same question again. This is diabolical.
We increased defence spending, but I wasn't asking him about our record. I asked him if he would rule out tax rises.
Okay, tax rises
He did not rule out raising tax rises, so tax rises are coming. He can't borrow more because the markets have no confidence in him. The reason the Prime Minister is in this mess is because he maxed out on spending in his first 2 budgets. That's why the benefits bill is set to rise to over £200 billion by the end of the decade. He has things the wrong way round, Mr. Speaker. He has a benefits plan until 2031, but no defence investment plan. Why not just cut welfare?
Mr. Speaker, she talks of leading the way on Ukraine, and I did pay tribute and
cut
do
welfare,
what the last government did
cut pensions,
on Ukraine,
then.
and we stood with them.
Cut
we
pensions,
continue
then.
to lead the way because it's the United Kingdom and France that are leading the coalition of the willing that have got the military plans together for security guarantees in Ukraine. Equally in Iran, Mr. Speaker, it is the UK government and the French government that have put together the coalition for the reassurance military plans as soon as the Strait of Hormuz is open. That is what we're doing to lead. But, Mr. Speaker, we are not going to take lectures on defence from the party opposite after what they did to the armed forces, and nor are we going to take lectures on the economy, which they crashed and we've had to pick up.
Kemi Badenoch. Come on.
Mr. Speaker, at a time of increased global instability and tension, war in Europe and the Middle East, he is paralysed, giving the armed forces less than half of the minimum that they need. Tony Blair says cut welfare for defence. Lord Robertson, former NATO Secretary-General, he's one of them, says cut welfare for defence. We all know why he won't cut welfare. It's because he is too weak. Too weak to make a decision, too weak to face down his backbenchers and cut benefits, too weak to stand up for our national security. As the sun sets on his premiership, he is scrabbling around for a legacy. But isn't it the case, Mr. Speaker, that the real legacy will be a bloated welfare state and a weaker armed forces?
Pull him up on that. Say she wants to get rid of pensions.
Mr. Speaker,
go on.
When they were in office, they didn't reform welfare or invest in our armed services. So the very choice she puts up, they did. Defence spending went down, welfare spending went up £88 billion overall on their watch, £33 billion under the shadow chancellor. So, Mr. Speaker, they did neither welfare reform nor did they spend our armed forces. And every week she reminds us why the British public sent them packing, because she ignores what we're turning the country around. Growth is up. She doesn't want to talk about that. Interest rates are down. She doesn't want to talk about that. Immigration is down after she cheerleaded for it to go up, and the NHS waiting lists have coming down to the fastest rate for 17 years. I'm going to keep fighting for the people who elected a Labour government and sent us here 2 years ago. People who want to live in a safer world. Parents who want to have a better future for their children, and young people growing up in poverty who deserve a better future. We're investing in this great nation, standing up against those that divide us, a stronger, fairer Britain.
Why don't you stand up and say, you want to get rid of the triple lock? OK.
There will be a taxi, and it might be for somebody who didn't request it.
Richard
Cup of tea, cup of
Thank you,
tea.
Mr. Speaker. I'd like to
Send them off for a
associate
cup of tea.
myself with the Prime Minister's comments on the horrific events in Belfast. The co-founder of US tech giant Palantir once claimed the NHS makes people sick, but now Palantir is running the NHS's new data platform. The Financial Times has reported that Palantir staff have had unlimited access to identifiable NHS patient data. And also there's deep concerns about Palantir's human rights record in relation to Trump and ICE and Israel's military action in Gaza. NHS patient data shouldn't be left in the hands of a US tech giant. The government has an opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to end this contract through a break clause next year. Will the government take the opportunity and kick Palantir next year out of our NHS?
Yes, please.
Mr. Speaker, as the Health Secretary has said, the existing contract will be reviewed, as it always is, ahead of the break clause, and data security is always a priority. On the single patient contract, there will be strong cyber security protections, and we will protect this data, like we do with all health data. We're focused on modernising the NHS so patients don't have to repeat themselves and get the care they need more quickly. Our investment has cut NHS waiting lists, delivered millions of extra appointments, improved A&E and ambulance response time. I'm proud of what we're doing.
Sir Ed David, Leader of the Liberal Democrats.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I join the Prime Minister in sending our condolences to the families of those killed in last week's helicopter crash? And can I associate myself with the Prime Minister's remarks about the horrific knife attack in Belfast? Our thoughts are with the victim and his family. And can I join the Prime Minister in condemning the disorder last night? Mr. Speaker, in Carers Week, can I celebrate the millions of family carers who make huge sacrifices to look after their loved ones? And can I look forward to an England versus Scotland World Cup final? and can I wish you a happy birthday, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, as the chaos over the Defence Investment Plan goes on, I'm sure members on all sides were shocked to read yesterday's reports. The government is considering slashing the hospital programme to fund the shortfall. Surely in 21st century Britain, people can expect both a decent local hospital and armed forces that keep them safe. So will the Prime Minister rule out any cuts to the NHS budget to fund defence?
Mr. Speaker, can I first agree with him about the amazing work of our carers? We will take the necessary measures to defend our country, the first duty of any Prime Minister. We will also take the measures, as we have done, to invest in our public services. And forgive me, I was running a public service when the government that his party were part of was stripping them bare under austerity. So we're really not going to take lectures on austerity.
God, he's not taking any lectures today, is he? Bloody hell. That's the first of not taking lectures, but a lot.
I would urge the Prime Minister to look at our plans for defence bonds to get £20 billion into defence. But, Mr. Speaker, turning to those horrific scenes in Belfast, too many times we see the same pattern. An appalling crime that makes us all feel immense pain and anger, and then extremists who exploit that grief and anger to spread hatred and violence, aided and abetted by social media barons like Elon Musk
Yes.
and their divisive algorithms. Does the Prime Minister agree this is not who we are as a country, and that it is not free speech if it's controlled by tech billionaires and their algorithms? So will he crack down properly on platforms like X that are fueling violence and hatred?
Yeah, ban it. Go on, so you're going to ban it?
We will crack down on anyone who's fueling this division. But it is really important, and I agree with him, we are heading into a very difficult situation in Northern Ireland. As I say, I've spoken to the Chief Constable, the First Minister and Deputy First Minister this morning. They are united in saying we should all be calling for calm. The police are on the front line, and it's our duty as politicians to call for that calm, and nobody who's a politician should be whipping up division and hatred.
Speaker, flexible and co-working spaces play an important role in regenerating town centres like mine in Rochester and Strood. They bring more people to our high streets to spend money in our local shops and support our local economies. But recent case law has put this under threat, with valuation office agency assessments now treating many as single larger businesses. And because of this, many small businesses face not only losing their small business rate relief, but also facing potentially backdated bills of up to 3 years, in some cases costing hundreds of thousands of pounds. So will the Prime Minister please ensure that an urgent political solution is found to this problem?
Can I absolutely recognise the important role that flexible working spaces play in regenerating our high streets? Where the law requires a property to be treated as a single unit, the business rates are paid by the operator, not the individual businesses. I can't speak for every case, but I will make sure that the Treasury Minister picks up with her as quickly as possible in relation to the particular issue.
Gavin Robbins.
Mr. Speaker, can I associate myself with the remarks of the Prime Minister in relation to the tragic helicopter crash last week? Mr. Speaker, yesterday I shared my concern that community cohesion stood on the precipice. The North Belfast attack on Monday was medieval, it was sadistic, and it's sadly been viewed by millions in this country. As reprehensible as it was, the outrageous violence, intimidation and community damage carried out last night in my constituency and in other parts of Northern Ireland require the strongest condemnation. It is impossible to share concerns about damage to our British values and then act in a way that tarnishes the very thing we should want to protect. The government's job, our collective job, is to act, to protect our country and to defend our borders. The Prime Minister knows that the man charged entered our country illegally. He passed through 2 safe countries and attained asylum in record time. Will he meet with me urgently to discuss the steps he and his government will take to ensure our values are enforced, that the rule of law in this country sustains, and that he protects and closes the open, porous border between our country and the Irish Republic?
Prime Minister.
Can I thank the Right Honourable Member?
Close the border.
Can I particularly thank him and all leaders in Northern Ireland who have urged calm,
you want to close the border in Northern
before
Ireland?
what happened last night. I think in standing together with that common message was very powerful. I thank him and others for what they did in that
We're not going to close the border, though, because that's fucking crazy.
I'm very happy to meet him and other MPs from Northern Ireland as he requests, and I think we've now identified a slot after Prime Minister's questions when we can do that. It is obviously important that we do at the first opportunity. We are all sickened by this attack, but the scenes of violence and disorder have no justification, and we need to be really clear about that. Of course there are questions that need to be answered, but destroying communities, destroying homes and driving people out of their homes is not and will never be the right way to respond to an attack like this. And I look forward to working with him and others to ensure that we get the calm
dog whistle
response and
politics
give the police the space that they need to deliver justice.
Deliver! We had to
Thank you,
deliver.
Mr. Speaker. Can I
Stand
also
and
associate
deliver.
myself with the Prime Minister's remarks about the horrific situation in Northern Ireland? Mr. Speaker, the Mildmay Hospital in my constituency, established in 1877, has been a pioneer for HIV and AIDS care since the 1980s. Diana, Princess of Wales, made 17 visits to this unique charitable hospital, breaking through the stigma surrounding HIV and AIDS. Today, Mildmay also provides care for patients with other complex needs, relieving pressure on the NHS, and yet it's at risk of closure because of commissioning issues in the NHS. Ahead of the 30th anniversary of Princess Diana's death next year, will the Prime Minister lend his support to this iconic hospital, which was so close to her heart, so that it can survive and thrive?
Minister. Well, can I thank you for raising this? The Mildmay Hospital is synonymous with extraordinary care and compassion, as she describes. I will make sure that she meets the Health Minister to discuss the concerns that I know she has in relation to it.
Mr. Speaker, as a person of colour in this House, I'm sure members will agree that I cannot be held accountable for the vile acts of individuals that share my complexion or heritage. However, there are some in this chamber who seek division to further their political ambitions. Individuals who are fueling hate against citizens of our own nation and causing hard-working, upstanding people to be afraid for their safety because of the colour of their skin. Teachers, doctors, nurses which are afraid to go to work. Words have consequences, and with eyes of the nation on us in this moment, what pure cold actions will the Prime Minister take against those inciting violence, perpetrating violence, and, more importantly, support the victims following this brutal attack in Belfast?
All those involved in the violence will face the full force of the law, and quite rightly so. He is absolutely right to describe, as he does, the fear that this instills in some of our communities. And that is a very real fear. It is being felt today, this hour, in Northern Ireland, by families who are too scared to go about their lawful work, to go to school and to go about their business. That is exactly what it does, which is why we must all condemn it.
Ms. Twist. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The British Standards Institution is 125 years old this year. And I'm proud to have been working closely with them to produce and publish BS 30480, the world's first free standard on suicide in the workplace. The standard has now been downloaded more than 12,500 times. As we all work towards reducing the number of people who die by suicide, will the Prime Minister support more workplace adoption of this standard and work with BSI and myself to achieve this?
Can I start by paying tribute to my honourable friend? She's been an outstanding advocate on this issue. I congratulate the BSI on 125 years of vital work. This guidance reminds us that every part of society has a role to play in suicide prevention, and it is really positive that so many businesses are putting it into practice, and I'm pleased to raise awareness of it and to encourage others who've not seen it yet to look closely at it and follow it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Gallifrey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and happy birthday. We all condemn, of course, the appalling violence in Belfast last night after the horrific attack on Monday. But this Prime Minister is in denial of the rising despair across the country over his failure to stop the boats and related criminality, his failure to recognise two-tier policing, his failures over Mandelson, his failures over the scourge of anti-Semitism. He's lost the confidence of the country, his own trade union members and his own very quiet backbenchers, Mr. Speaker. When will he do the right thing, and when will this Prime Minister resign?
Prime Minister.
God.
Mr. Speaker, last week we had
Why don't you resign?
terrible
Why
case
don't
of
you
Henry
resign?
Novak, which they sought to
Why
exploit.
don't you resign?
Now we have
When are you going to resign?
Now we have a very difficult situation in Northern Ireland where families and communities are extremely frightened. What do? They try to whip up fear and division, because that's all they've got. And he talks about stopping the boats. Mr. Speaker, when we passed legislation to help stop the boats, what did they do? They voted against it. And to take those measures, you need money. And he is still not properly addressed why his companies didn't just aggressively avoid tax, but failed to tax the tax that they legally owed. His investment company then gave huge donations to reform. If he paid his tax with more money to deal with these issues.
Sampson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and happy birthday.
Give him a short shrift.
Last summer, my constituent, Ryan Long, went on his first lads' holiday to Ibiza. On his first night, he made what turned out to be a fatal decision when he took an ecstasy pill and, after falling into a coma, sadly passed away at the age of 18. Since his death, his mum, Angie, working with local charity Open Road, has ploughed her grief into campaigning,
Funny when Nazis talk about the scourge of anti-Semitism. Yeah, that is quite funny,
of the
isn't it?
dangers of drug use, so that no other family has to go through the pain hers has suffered. She joins us in the public gallery today. Will the Prime Minister join me in thanking Angie for her dedicated work, and will he meet with her to discuss ways we can further raise awareness of the danger of drugs in Ryan's name?
Minister. Can I thank him for raising this case? And I think the details of Ryan's case that he has outlined are very hard to hear. I have to say, as a father of a 17-year-old boy, I find it particularly hard to hear. And no mother should have to experience what Angie has experienced. I know she's here with us today, and I'm very much hoping I can meet her immediately after PMQs. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If any member of the public wishes to visit a major sporting event or major music event, they can expect to be searched on the way in. If they bring a bottle of water, the lid will be taken. If they order a drink from the bar, it will be served in a plastic cup. This is done for security reasons. Yet because of exemptions in the Offensive Weapons Act 2019, those same events permit the carrying of blades up to 5 inches long. I would just like to ask the Prime Minister, does he recognise the dangers and the risks associated with that? And does he recognise
what about the risk of kicking your girlfriend on the floor, mate?
Our voters would call two-tier justice.
Well, Mr. Speaker, let me just be very clear. Any blade that's used to threaten or to harm others is illegal by law. Any blade. We will, of course, work with the Sikh community, knife crime campaigners and the police to learn the right lessons. That is the responsible thing to do. And I really do think we all have a responsibility, a duty as politicians, to respond to the case that we were discussing last week and the events in Northern Ireland that we're discussing today with the calmness that leadership requires.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Maternity care in North Oxfordshire declined under the previous government, with the loss of consultant-led services at the Horton Hospital, where I was born, and serious failings by the Trust, which are now part of Baroness Amos' inquiry. However, last week, the Care Quality Commission upgraded the Horton Maternity Unit to good. Will the Prime Minister visit the Horton Hospital in Banbury to see the change that this government's £3.3 million investment into that hospital has delivered since July 2024?
Well, I'm pleased that his local maternity services are seeing improvements. We now have a record number of midwives working in the NHS, and we're investing over £150 million to address critical safety risks. There is much more that we need to do, so every mother is listened to and receives outstanding care. The recommendations of the Amos inquiry will be published shortly, and we will act to deliver lasting change.
Tom Gordon. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Earlier this year, I found myself in hospital as a result of a flare-up from living with ulcerative colitis. I was bowled away by the support of our local constituents and people who live with inflammatory bowel disease across the country when they got in touch and shared their support. But for people with IBD, care often falls far short of the mark. It can take ages to get a diagnosis. Myself, it took the best part of a decade. And then when you manage to get a diagnosis, the care that comes can come as a postcode lottery. Now, when you're living with a fluctuating and not visible condition, that's already hard enough before navigating those systems. IBD UK Alliance set out what good care looks like with the IBD standard. Will the Prime Minister meet with me and clinicians to discuss IBD standards, and will he consider appointing a national clinical lead to drive improvement when it comes to IBD care?
Well, can I thank him for sharing his personal experience and congratulating him on his achievements at the London Marathon, notwithstanding that. I agree with him that wherever a patient lives, they should receive high-quality, consistent care. Through national improvement programmes like Getting It Right First Time, we are making sure the best practice is shared to drive up standards, but I'm very happy for ministers to give him the details of that in the way that he's raised in his question.
Chris Vince.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and many happy returns to you. And can I take this opportunity, as it is Carers Week, to thank all of the young carers and young adult carers in my constituency of Harlow for all they do all year round.
Been up every
Mr.
week,
Speaker, you will know, as a former teacher, I spend a lot of time talking to students, parents and teachers in my constituency of Harlow about the dangers of social media, and they're very concerned that these big tech companies are not taking their responsibility seriously. So can I ask the Prime Minister what he's doing to hold these big tech firms to account to ensure our young people are safe online?
Can I thank him for the great work he's done for decades supporting young carers? Mr. Speaker, we've given tech companies a deadline. Introduce the device-level controls that already exist to prevent children from sending and receiving sexually explicit images, or we will change the law with fines for companies or even criminal liability for bosses who fail to comply. Because when it comes to the safety of our children, standing by is not an option, and further steps will follow.
Adrian Ramsey.
Mr. Speaker, a suppressed DEFRA report concluded that without transformational change, our food and water systems are at risk of catastrophic failure from 2030. Another suppressed Joint Intelligence Committee report concluded that there's a high likelihood of ecosystem collapse, putting food production at risk. Does the Prime Minister recognise that many of us across this House are ready to work collaboratively to address these very urgent challenges? And will he commit to publishing these two reports in full?
Prime Minister.
Well, I agree that we must act to protect ecosystems that underpin our food supply and our way of life, and I'm really proud that under this government the UK is back playing a leading part on climate change and restoring nature.
Alison Taylor.
Peter Murrow pleaded guilty to embezzling over £400,000 of SNP members' funds. Thousands of pounds were spent on luxury items ranging from a salt and pepper grinder to a new Jaguar to a luxury motorhome. When party figures raised concerns, even resigned, they were silenced and ostracised by those at the very top of the SNP. Does my right honourable friend, the Prime Minister, agree that a full investigation into this national scandal needs to be held as a matter of urgency?
Well, Mr. Speaker, these are clearly serious, legitimate questions that deserve answers and scrutiny. Answers and scrutiny they're not getting. I do think the Scottish Parliament should look at them closely, and I hope they'll listen to the concerns of this House.
Anna Spencer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Running a business as a plumber, I was well used to dealing with dirty grubbiness. And there's still plenty of that dirty grubbiness behind me. Now, running a business is tough, so will the Prime Minister join me in backing That's the Problem campaign to cut VAT rates in hospitality? He didn't answer the question last
Face on
week. Will he tell
Putin.
us today, yes or no?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm very glad that we're cutting VAT over the summer with our summer savings programme that I hope she will support. I do note we haven't heard much from the Green Party leader after he admitted he hadn't paid his council tax. Perhaps he's traded his houseboat for a submarine.
Paul Foster.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, ICBs have a statutory obligation to fully fund all essential medicines and pharmacy provision for the delivery of specialist end-of-life and palliative care at our wonderful hospices, such as St Catherine's and Derrien House, situated in our respective constituencies of South Ribble and Chorley. However, this is not happening, as ICBs are claiming the costs are covered by the hospice's core grant. Would the Prime Minister support my private member's bill, St Catherine's Law, that seeks to place an explicit obligation on every ICB to fund all essential medicines and pharmacy provision for all our hospices separately from any core grant they receive from the NHS?
Can I thank him for raising this? And as he knows, integrated care boards are responsible for commissioning palliative care and end-of-life services, including hospices, to meet the needs of their area. And that includes decisions on how services are funded, including medicines and pharmacy provisions. I'm happy to talk to him further about it.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Every time there is heavy rain, Judy Washington's driveway
true,
and garden
SG.
is flooded
True.
with raw sewage.
Thanks for the super chat.
The same happens to her neighbour, and it happened last week again. Thames Water have told my office they won't even look at the situation until the end of winter 2027. It is unacceptable that a lady in her retirement is shovelling sewage from her drive and waiting for human waste to decompose in her garden. Will the Prime Minister write to Thames Water on Judy and her neighbours' behalf to compel them to sort this out?
Well, can I thank him for raising this case? And it's obviously awful.
Go to fucking jail.
If he will share further details of it with my office, I'll make sure the Water Minister picks it up and acts as quickly as possible.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Last week, the Prime Minister warned that NATO needs to be ready for an attack by 2030 from Russia. Indeed, we have an increasingly belligerent, expansionist, imperialist Russian leadership to our east and a Donald Trump US leadership to our west, for whom Ukraine and European security is not a priority. So we need to meet the moment. To his credit, since taking power, the Prime Minister has increased defence spending, but the House of Commons Defence Committee is adamant that we need to reach 3% GDP spend on defence. So when the Prime Minister is signing off on decisions within the Defence Investment Plan, which I hope will be, touch wood, imminently published, will he agree to that 3% GDP spend on defence?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, he's right to raise the concerns that we have. We've increased defence spending, and the Defence Investment Plan is going to be set out very soon, and before the NATO summit, which, as he knows, in just a few weeks' time.
Final question, Lister Katz.
Mr. Speaker, Lindsay Foreman has not eaten in 32 days, and her husband Craig in 23. They are being held hostage by the terrorist government of
the
Iran.
first Tory to ask a question, you know.
This government's weak words have abandoned them. So
Kemi
will the
Badenoch.
Prime Minister stop raising their case and start fighting for them? And he can do that by declaring today in this House that they are arbitrarily detained, something he has refused to do, and refer their case to the International Court of Justice so we get them home.
Prime Minister.
Can I thank her for raising this important case and give her the assurance and the House the assurance that this is raised regularly with us. The Foreign Secretary has raised it very recently. We raise it every time we can. We do everything we can in relation to this case. We are doing everything that we can, as she would expect, as the party opposite would have done in office, and she's right to raise the case.
Let the front benches change over.
That was a non-answer. We've done everything we can. We're doing everything we can. We're doing everything we can. Just to mention that we're doing everything we can, because, you know, I want to be quite frank. We're doing everything we can. Did I tell you we're doing everything we can? Yeah. Okay, so let's break that down. So, first of all, we had Keir Starmer. They say question number one, he has to list the things that he's going to do that day, and he also gets to make a few announcements there. He talked about the helicopter crash last week. He talked about the disruption in Northern Ireland last night, the fucking dickheads going out and smashing stuff up. And he talked about the World Cup. I said best of luck to England and Scotland. Melanie Ward stood up and she made a joke about wishing all the best to Scotland and left off England. And everyone laughed. Very funny. She's a Labour MP and she asked about money going from UK charities to settlers in the West Bank who shouldn't be getting money from charities in this country. Charities giving them money shouldn't be getting that. And which is fair enough. And she reckoned there was over 20 million given to these charities from the UK. At least 5 million of which, £5 million came from gift aid. So that was money that you and I pay in our taxes that goes towards charities, has been siphoned off to these fucking knobheads who turn up in the middle of in the middle of the West Bank with a gun and a copy of the Bible and tell the people, or the Torah, and tell people in the buildings there to get out and they're going to take over. Starmer stood up and said, "Yeah, we need to do something about that." World Cup needs boycotting, and I disagree because I think it's just going to be terrible. I don't know. It might not be. They might put it together at the last minute, but I want it to be absolutely awful. I want. There's no need for a boycott because people are just not going by the looks of things because it's just too difficult. Even the people who wanted to go, who are in the minority, are being told. These Scottish fans are being told they're not allowed to go over to America. They've had their visas revoked. New Zealand to be a republic soon, says Greg. Oh, I don't know about that. I don't know. We've heard that about Australia a few times. Prince Charles won't like that. It's a long way away. I don't think he's going to really care too much. New Zealand Labour tried to fix council water. They called 3 waters. Yeah. Tim, to me, that's either fairly sensible, plodding, almost gentle PMQs. I think some weeks that's good. Yeah, especially in the face of what happened last week we saw in Southampton, the disruption caused by right-wing gobshites, and then the right-wing gobshites again out last night in Northern Ireland. Don't forget that those fuckers last night, they're not just there to be racist, they're also there to stamp their authority on those roads, on those streets that they feel like they're in charge of. This is a message to the white community as much as it was to any other community in Belfast, to say we're in charge. We're the people in charge here. We decide who can live here and who can't. And that goes for everybody. So then Kemi got up, and this is it. I know I stopped it to mention this, but she did the World Cup. She did happy birthday to Lindsay, Hillary, what's his name? The Bob, the guy in charge. What's his name? The person who does the Lindsay Hoyle. That's it. Lindsay Hoyle and Hillary Benn, and there's 2 men standing there. And she also talked about Northern Ireland as well, and also mentioned the crash on the helicopter. And then she said, people can be angry, but they shouldn't be going out burning people out of their homes. They shouldn't be attacking the police, etc. Which is welcome. That coming from Kemi Badenoch. And then she talked about the fact that this helicopter's been shot down over Iran, the situation in Ukraine, talking about it being a dangerous world, which was created by her mates in the right-wing sphere. The defense. She wanted to know when the defense investment plan was going to be published. She asked if it was going to be published this week. To which Starmer stood up and said, "Yeah, the plan is to release it before the NATO summit in a few weeks' time." He just replied and said that. He also pointed out that when they took over, the defense to GDP ratio was 2.5%, and they were putting it up to 2.6% next year, building up to that, and talking about the strategic review, etc. Then Kemi stood up and said, "Britain's getting weaker," and talked about the defence investment plan again. And Starmer stood up again the second time, so we'll publish it before the NATO summit. I just said that. And then she stood up again, and she talked about the fact that Labour had cut defence spending by 3.5 billion. Okay, and then the response to that was Tories cuts, and then a bunch of stats of Labour spending money on stuff. And then the next one is it was about, will you rule out any higher taxes to pay for defence? And Starmer went, wibble. And then he said, a few weeks' time, we're going to do the defence review. And then Kemi Badenoch accused Starmer's government of maxing out spending over 200 billion on welfare by the end of the Parliament, with no defence plan. And they're like, well, we just said that the plan's coming out in a few weeks' time. And at that point, I would have stood up and said, oh, so you want to get rid of the triple lock then? I would have pointed out that over 50% of our benefits bill, because that's what she's getting at, she wants us to cut benefits, goes to pensioners. Anyway, so less than half of the money they need for defence. That's what she's saying. That's what she's saying. That there's less than half the money we need for defence is going to defence. To which Starmer just stood up and said, that's the legacy of 14 years of Tory governments. And then he talks about growth being up and inflation being down and immigration being down and waiting lists being down and up in North being up and South being down and all this kind of stuff. Is the usual brag lists that accompanies the sixth question. Just what a waste of time. What an absolute waste of time. All the things you could nail Starmer on at the moment. And she just goes for like these weird things that a lot of people don't give a toss about. I mean, we do care about defence, but she was going on about a specific thing, which is, when is this defence review, spending review going to come out? Strategic review, sorry, the defence investment plan. Defence investment plan. When's it going to come out? In a few weeks' time. Okay. That was it. That was a great question. Wow, that was really cutting. Then we have Richard Bergen standing up and making a great point about Palantir, having our data and asking if they're going to cut this when the break clause comes up next year, if we are going to cut Palantir off from the NHS. If Andy Burnham becomes our Prime Minister before then, I could genuinely see that happening, because he doesn't care as much as Starmer does about keeping dickheads on side, I don't think. But Starmer did say we will review it as we do ahead of every year and ahead of the break clause and blah blah blah. We always go out of our way to stop these fuckers getting a hold of information about people. Access to people's personal medical data. But the problem is, even if you anonymize patient data, especially for particular ailments which are quite rare, all you need is someone's area where they're being looked after, which hospital they're going to, and what ailment they have. Those two things, and from that you can identify someone. So yeah, that's really disturbing because Palantir was set up as a defence company to collate data for defence, not for hospitals. Ed Davey then got on his feet. He talked about the helicopter crash, talked about Northern Ireland, talked about the World Cup, talked about Lindsay Hall's birthday, and then he talked about hospital programs being slashed, and he wanted Starmer to rule out cuts to the NHS to fund defence. So a bit like what Kemi Badenoch was getting at. You know, she was saying, "Oh, I want cuts to welfare, I want cuts to pay for defence," and he was standing up and they don't want you to say you're not going to cut anything. To which Starmer stood up and did this thing that politicians do, where they don't answer the question, they just attack the opposition, and they had a big go at Davey for this for the coalition they had with the Tories. And then the second question, which I think was a better question, to be honest with you, was about the current unrest being fueled by Elon Musk, etc. Attacks on our democracy. It's not free speech. It is just creating division. And he wants to see a crackdown on these companies, on these billionaires. To which Starmer just went, maybe. I'm just sitting here going, oh, not only is this a really boring question time, but God, Keir Starmer's just like a really boring person. It's just really boring. It's so boring. Before we go on then, this is for SG, because obviously SG dropped a couple of super chats in there, and we had to set off the confetti cannon. Yes, confetti! Thank you so much for those super chats. It's really kind of you. In fact, the second super chat SG came too early for the confetti, so if we get one more, I can fire off the confetti. It will fire off in the chat, I hope. And off what isn't being replaced. I still don't get why we need an American tech company to be our defense. It's not like MI6 needed it. We really need to follow Europe and just ban them. Yeah, absolutely, just ban them. Savagon says, FIFA have corruption and greed rife in their executive functions. Trump in good company getting a peace prize off them. Yeah, absolutely. And Savagon says, doing everything we can sounds like Kamala Harris working tirelessly for a ceasefire in Gaza while saying she won't change anything Biden did. Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree. I mean, this is the thing, like, Labour need to be much clearer on their condemnation of Netanyahu and Israel. And then talk about, well, let's say Israel, not the country, obviously, because we have to go after government, not countries. I need to stop doing that myself, because I keep doing that with Russia. I need to stop saying Russia. I need to start saying the Kremlin, or the Duma, or Vladimir Putin. But we do need to be a bit careful about that. But they do need to be more stringent in their criticisms of Israel, and they get away with it. They can absolutely get away with it at this point. I mean, the most people are like, after all the shit that Israel's pulled over the last few years, the milk of human sympathy has well and truly run dry. That teat has been suckled. You're not going to get any more milk out of it. Because there was a lot of sympathy towards Israel in the wake of the horrific October the 7th attacks. But afterwards, the way the Israeli government overacted, which just absolutely smacked to a lot of people of what the Americans did after 9/11, just absolutely overreacted and then started firing rockets at people who had nothing to do with it. Absolutely nothing to do with it whatsoever. People, first of all, they went after Afghanistan, which if you squinted really hard, just about make out a connection between Afghanistan and Al-Qaeda, the Saudi Arabian terrorist organization led by a Saudi Arabian who got 15 Saudi Arabians to fly in those planes and then 4 from other countries, none of which were from Afghanistan. But let's invade Afghanistan. You just about to see, oh, maybe he's in Afghanistan. He wasn't. He was in Pakistan, but, you know. And then a year later, they decide, oh, we're going to invade Iraq. It had nothing to do with it whatsoever. An overreaction to a terrorist attack. And this is what Trump is praying for. And you can play this clip back in months to come and go, shit, Graham, you were right about this. He is praying for some kind of terrorist attack. This is why they are, you know, doing what they're doing, because they're pushing people to a point where they've got nothing left to lose, and then someone's going to do something really fucking horrifically stupid and evil. And Trump is going to use that as justification to stop the midterms from going ahead if he thinks he's going to lose them. Is Five Eyes still working? Yes, I mean it is still working, Greg NZ. But we're not at optimum speed, you know, because, for example, British intelligence stopped sharing intelligence with the Americans over what was happening in the Caribbean as a result of the American buildup of ships, of warships in the Caribbean Sea, and it looked like they were, you know, going to try and, I don't know, kidnap the leader of Venezuela. And they were attacking before then small boats. They were just blowing up boats that they saw, said, oh, the drug dealers, and blowing them out of the water, extrajudicial killing. One of them resulted in a boat being hit and the people on board surviving the hit, jumping overboard and being shot dead in the water, which is a war crime. No one seems to talk about that anymore, but that definitely happened. At that point, the British intelligence services stopped sharing intelligence with the Americans. So Five Eyes isn't working as well as it should do, or as well as it did, because of Trump. But obviously it still exists. It's just a little bit neutered compared with what it was. Netanyahu is using the October 7th attack to commit genocide. Yeah, there's. I mean, just like the Americans used the justification of 9/11, and we went in with them to invade Afghanistan and Iraq. Like I say, if you squinted really hard, you could just about make out a justification for going into Afghanistan. I mean, it was a terrible justification. I mean, it made no sense at all. But going into Iraq, no, nothing. There was nothing there except we don't like the leader. And I need to explain this to people really slowly who are big fans of Vladimir Putin, right? It's got nothing to do with him, who leads Ukraine. It's got nothing to do with America, who's in charge in Cuba, or in Venezuela, or in Ecuador, or in Panama, or in Grenada. It's got nothing to do with that. If people put in some dickhead into be in charge, look, it's shit. And you can do other things. You can put sanctions on them. You can have a trade embargo. Maybe you could put some tariffs on them. You like tariffs, don't you, Trump? But what you can't do is just kill innocent men, women, and children in countries that you don't like the leadership of. Like they've done in Iran, where they took out the leader, they murdered the leader, and his son's taken over. So that sorted that out, didn't it? The ships in space 1999 were well thought out. Yes. Not attacking the US before midterms is the best way to spite Trump. Yeah. If I want to have a moon base, what's your favorite TV moon base? Thing is, if there is a terrorist attack on America, or a major terrorist attack on America, if it happens before the midterms, that's bad, right? Because people will do the rally around the flag effect. If it happens after the midterms, there's a good chance that people will turn on Trump, especially if it's happened as a result of some of the stupid shit he's done. And you can absolutely tie it to him. I know he'll try and wiggle out of it. I mean, this is the guy who at the weekend said that he, you know, the woman who was interviewing him at the weekend, she stormed out the interview. It's like, no, we've seen the footage. There was a film camera there. A video camera. It was filming you. It was going out, and it showed you just standing up and saying, I've done enough now. I'm going now. Cuthbert said, Christopher Hitchens said not liking the leader was enough, makes you wonder who got to him. Christopher Hitchens, although I agreed with him on some things, I venomously disagreed with him on other things. He was very eloquent, an excellent debater, but he's very, very, very much part of the British upper class. I mean, look at his brother now, Peter, he's a fucking nightmare. But Christopher was right about a few things. He was absolutely dead wrong about Iraq. He justified getting rid of Saddam Hussein based on the fact that Saddam Hussein used gas on his own people when he attacked Erbil and Soleimani in northern Iraq back in 1991 with gas weapons, which he definitely did do that. But since then, northern Iraq had been a independent state, well, not independent, semi-independent autonomous state of Iraq called the autonomous region of Kurdistan, which have their own flag and do their own thing and don't have to do what Baghdad tell them to, and which came in handy when it all turned to shit in Iraq years later after the invasion and when ISIS came along, because obviously they were arm's length to ISIS. But he used that as justification for taking out Saddam Hussein. He said, well, people are suffering in Iraq, and so we have to take out this leader so they stop suffering. But it doesn't work like that. We've seen it now in people stop suffering in Venezuela? No. They took out the leader. He's been kidnapped, and now he's going to stand trial in America. Are the people in Venezuela any better off? No. They did it in Iran. If anything, they strengthened the leadership. There was an old man in charge, really unpopular, big protests against him earlier in the year, or the rule of the clerics there earlier in the year. And now the younger man is in charge, who's lost his his dad, his wife, his kids to an American attack. And now he's in charge. India women 25-2 target 172. Ooh, they might make that. Blake 7 was great. It was. Was it Paul Darrow? I met Paul Darrow. He didn't play Avon. Who did he play? Who did Paul Darrow play in Blake 7? I have to think about that. I met him. The Trump Meet the Press interview reminded me of that clip in a pig crapping on its ball sack. Okay. I met the cast of Blake 7, a sponsored swim I did for BHF at Crystal Palace. That's so random and wonderful. I love that. But yeah, Christopher Hitchens. I mean, this is the thing, right? We live in a world where people have their own opinions about all kinds of stuff, and we don't engage. Well, at least those of us who are involved in politics quite a lot try not to engage in groupthink of like we've all got to think the same way about absolutely everything. And, I have my own quite sort of militant views on things. I think that every private school in this country should be fucking burnt to the ground. I would let the children out first. I'm not a monster, but I think they should be absolutely razed to the ground. And that's it. End of. If I had my way, oh my God, the changes I would make, if I had the time and the money and the power to do so to this country, I'd absolutely revolutionise it. I'd get rid of these cars all out of the cities. They could fuck off for a start. And all the cities in this country would be pedestrianised to fuck, and you'd park your car a mile away and fucking walk like you do out on the towers. Fucking walk. You got legs, fucking use them. And not only that, it would make the health of everyone in the city centre better because they're not breathing in car fumes or dust from the tyres if you're using an electric car. Also, the fact that they're getting a nice walk would be good for their exercise. Get some fucking exercise. But also, we can set up things called trains, like that can take people in. So you park at the train station and you get taken into the city centre. We can do that. We can do it. He did play Avon. Woohoo! Harry Flashman, thank you. He was Avon. I met him too. He was a nice guy. But he was a baddie in the end, wasn't he? Was he the one who turned on them all in the last episode? Sorry, spoilers. We weren't sure there was anything there, and now we found water and helium-3 needed for plasma engines. If Graham was in power, he'd have us all wear a hat and go travelling. Well, no, Hidden Eye, I wouldn't, because I understand that some people don't like it. I just because I like something or just because I don't like something doesn't mean I don't think that anyone else should be able to indulge in it. But or should have to indulge in it. But I do genuinely feel like there is far too many people on the right who are like, this is the way I live my life. I'm cisgender. I'm heterosexual. I do this. I do that, and everyone else should live their life the way I live my life, which is just a nonsense, isn't it? It's just a nonsense. Everyone's different. Everyone does everything differently. So anyway, where were we? We're talking about Davey. We're talking about the freedom of speech thing. So then it was over to a Labour MP who was talking about flexible rates on the high streets or something. Then we had the DUP dickhead, Gavin Robinson, who stood up and he, first of all, good point, Gavin Robinson. He said that he thoroughly condemned the damage done to the community and his constituency. And then he turned around and said, what we need to do is close the border between the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland. He wants to close the what? And Starmer responded by going, oh, good point you made about the whole thing, about not being horrible in your own community. I don't think he mentioned the concept of closing the border because it's just so preposterous. He didn't. I would have just stood up and gone, what the fuck have you been smoking, you mad bastard? Then we had Rushanara Ali, who I really like, actually. She was talking about the Mildmay Hospital and about the need for funding for it. And then we had, which Simon said, I'll look into that. I'll get back to you on that one. And then we had Ayub Khan, who's a Birmingham Independent MP, and he was talking about racism and about the fact that words have consequences, etc. Which I'm with him on that. And then we had Labour MP Liz Twist, who was talking about bringing together a standard on preventing suicide, which was picked up in the chat here with what about trans kids? Trans people are 50% of all trans people attempt suicide before the age of 25. Whenever you show that report to someone, they find a turf. When you show it to a turf, the actual horror of their position just becomes really, really evident because they just don't care. The inhumanity of their argument. You go look at this: 50%, over 50% of trans kids, over 50%. Oh, I don't care. Anyway, so then we had Richard Tice stand up. Blah, 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 blah. Is he the MP for barking? Is he? I want to know now. I'm kind of interested. Richard Tice got head lice. Richard Lice. It's funny if you type in Richard Lice, a picture of Richard Tice turns up. That's quite funny. Let's go over to let's have a look. He is a member of the Parliament. Oh, for Boston and Skegness. Sorry, I just wrote the word barking next to him, and I thought that was quite funny because there's obviously barking in Dagenham, isn't there? But no, because it'd be funny if he just stood up and just started barking, which kind of sounded like a bit like that. He went, wah, 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 stop the boats, wah, wah, wah. To which, spreading fear and division. And to which Starmer stood up and said, tax evasion, tax evasion. Do you know what tax evasion that you did? Your companies that should have been paying taxes. If you paid more taxes, then we'd have more money to spend on stuff, wouldn't we? They'll spend more money on stopping the boats and doing all the shit that you want. But your companies don't pay tax because you use very clever ways of getting around it. Through the loopholes, you gobshite. And that was probably the high point of this PMQs. Richard Tice being put back in your little posh box. Get in your posh box, you little twat. Anyway, so then we had Labour. We had David Burton from Labour talking about a constituent who was an 18-year-old who died after taking ecstasy, and their mum was in the gallery, whatever it's called. People can go and watch, and. He got a chance. Keir Starmer said, "Yeah, well, I'll meet with his mum afterwards." Talking about the dangers of taking drugs, unregulated drugs. So maybe they'll legalise them and they'll stop this from happening. James Murdoch stood up. This is the fucker who used to be a refucker, but he can't be a refucker anymore because not only they didn't really care about him beating up his girlfriend and going to jail for it, but they were more concerned about him diddling his taxes or something, or his bounce back loan. So he stood up and talked about two-tiered justice. Then we had Sean Woodcock, unfortunate name, who is a Labour MP, and he stood up and talked about maternity services and investment in maternity services, particularly in Horton Hospital. We had Tom Gordon then in the Lib Dems, who talked about care for people with living with IDB, which I think is like IBS, is it? And and bringing in standards. Then to which Starmer just goes, yeah, okay. And then Labour's Chris Vince from Harlow talked about the law, changing the law on sexual images of children. This is going to be this idea that they are pushing to get rid of, not rid of, but to punish these tech companies like Grok that allow children to see sexually explicit images and creates things like WhatsApp that allows children to make sexually explicit images of themselves and send them to other people. And once it's out there in the ether, you don't know where it'll end up. Adrian Ramsey stood up next. He's the co-leader. He was the co-leader, wasn't he, of the Green Party? But he's not anymore because that's Zach Polanski. He talked about the ecosystem and food and how it's all going to be impacted. A couple of reports have come out going, this is fucking awful, which it is at the moment. What are you going to do about that? To which, Starmer didn't really answer, I don't think, very well. Then we had another Labour MP, because it goes Labour opposition. Peter Murrow was mentioned by Alicia Taylor, I think it was, who brought this up, who's the SNP crook who was married to the First Minister of Scotland, Nicola Sturgeon, and asking if there was going to be an investigation, to which Starmer just went, I don't know, there might be, but I'm not in charge of that. That's up to the government in Scotland, which is run by the SNP. And then Hannah Spencer stood up and she talked about the grubbiness behind her, which was nice, which made Sarah Puchin, privately educated, of course, who won by 6 votes in Runcorn and Helsby. She looked like a fucking bulldog chewing a fucking wasp while pissing on a nettle, I don't know. And Starmer, instead of like joining, if it had been me, I would have joined in and having a dig at the fuckers who were sitting behind her, because she was talking about the grubbiness behind her. He's had have a go at Zach Polanski for not paying council tax on a barge that he didn't need to, and he made a terrible dad joke about maybe he's going to put a submarine. Sorry, what? When he was in a barge, maybe now he's in submarine. What? Like, why? I don't. Do you know what? You want to crack a joke that's A, not funny, and B, makes no logical sense at all. What? Maybe just fluff the fucking delivery, I don't know. And then Labour MP, whose name didn't come up, so I don't know who it was, talked about ICBs at hospices, at intergalactic continental missiles. Is that why do you want to? Oh, that's IBMs. Sorry, ICBs at hospices, which Starmer stood up and said, yeah, okay. And then we had Lib Dems stand up, and we had Freddie Van Mario or something. He was talking about Thames water and the shit in it, and are we going to sort it out? And Starmer sort of went, oh yeah, okay. And then some of the responses today were really shit. And then finally for Labour, Labour MP stood up and talked about the Russian threat, etc. Talked about NATO and defence spending needing to be 3% of GDP. So it's going up to 2.6% next year. And he's saying by the end of the Parliament, by 2030, it needs to be up to 3%, which Starmer went, yeah, I suppose. And then finally, the final question. This is quite interesting. So all of those questions, from when Kemi sat down, all of those questions were from parties other than the Conservatives. And this was Alicia Kearns, and she talked about getting that couple back from Iran who've been held in Iran since January. That was a bit weird, wasn't it? There was only one Conservative question apart from Kemi Badenoch. It's as though they've lost their will to go on. The Conservatives, they're just nowhere to be seen. Even when we watched Question Time together last week on Quagglebox, it was a bit of a nothing burger, wasn't it? From the Tories, he kind of agreed with Burnham on most things, and there was nothing really setting out his stall that was different from any other party, from Labour or from the Refuck. It was just like, yeah, whatever. They didn't have anything to really get their teeth into. And this is the problem with the modern Tories, today's Tories in 2026. They've got nothing. All they've got is they're going to get us out of the European Convention of Human Rights, but the Refuck want to do that. They're going to come down on immigration, but Refuck want to do that. Wouldn't shock me if he was MP for Barking and Dagenham, even though he isn't. Yeah. Well, in America, I think selling stuff, like going around trying to sell stuff or maybe asking for money, is called barking in America. So I remember coming into St. Thomas Island in the US Virgin Islands, and there's a big sign up, and it's like, no spitting, no this, no that. And one of them was like, no barking. And I'm like, do you have a problem with that? Like, first of all, dogs can't read that. But secondly, you have a lot of people coming off the boat going, ruff, 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 ruff. But apparently it means something else in America, as does panhandling. Well, it must send a Tesla to space. We should send a train up. Spaceships don't cost that much to build. Well, pool our resources and make the very first space train. Space! Integrated care boards. Thank you very much, Jimmy, for telling me what ICB stands for. And Ernie and Diz. Sorry, should I not make that joke? Because we were talking about hospices, and that's quite a serious issue. But I like to bring a bit of levity now and again and just make a joke about nuclear warfare instead. I'll have a nothing burger with absentee fries, please, says Gallifreyan Rent. Yeah. I mean, this is the thing. Like, the Tories have had their lunch eaten by Labour and by VFUC at the same time. They've got nothing left. They've got nothing that sets them out. Go name me a policy that sets Labour out from. That sets the Tories out from any other party right now. There just isn't one. They don't. I think they did the dash with Brexit. That's it now. No big ideas from the Tories ever again. We've seen that their plan for privatisation of everything has gone to shit. Made everything worse. Pushed our bills up. Pushed poo into all our water. Sean says, I put in a complaint into the Integrated Care Board. They are getting rid of gas asthma inhalers, but I have a reaction to the new one. But they won't give me back. So I have no inhalers for asthma. I'm sorry, Sean. That's awful. That is really bad. I'm sorry, mate. That really fucking sucks. My partner's got asthma, and it's not fun. It is really not fun. Diz, you've just made my dog bark. So I speak dog. Well, depends what dog I'm speaking to. Some dogs, they speak some weird fucking dialect that I can't. They're like, I don't know. Did you know that dogs take on accents? You know, different dogs from different parts of the country sound different depending on where they're from. Their barks sound different if they're from Scotland than if they're from Wales, or if they're from like the northwest or if they're from the northeast. This is true. I swear to God, I am not making this up. Dogs have accents. Yeah. True story. And with the Tories falling into obscurity, Thatcher's ghost has decided to move out of Parliament. She hears the Falklands are nice this time of year. No, they're not, mate. The Falklands are never nice. That's why I think that, the people who want to live there, 99% of them want to be British. Well, fucking let them. I mean, if you're mad enough to want to live there, all these people in Argentina go, no, it's Malvinas, it's Argentina. Go and fucking live there, mate. Go on. Off you pop. Go and live there with the fucking sheep. Go on. I mean, it is funny what you can get people to fight over, isn't it? It is objectively hilarious. Oh, we need this rock in the middle of the ocean. Why? Oh, because it seems like a lovely place to live. I go back to what I was saying about Israel. Oh, not that nice. It's just not. Sorry. We were literally talking about dark bark accents at home last night, says SG. That's really funny. Do you know what else is funny, right? On the show this morning, no word of a lie, I was making a joke about wearing a hat. Was it today or yesterday? I don't know. I was making a joke about wearing hats in churches, and you have to wear a hat if you're a man in church, but if you're a woman, you don't wear. You take your hat off if you're a man in church, but if you're a woman, you have to wear a hat. And you see women at weddings and things with very large hats on, right? And I made the point that if you're Jewish and you're a man, you need to go, when you go to the temple, when you go to synagogue, shul, you have to cover your head. You have to wear a hat. But actually, there's a point to be made here that the women are told not to wear hats. Okay. Anyway, so I said that this morning, and then I was on TikTok just in the few minutes between shows when I was just stuffing some toast into my face. And there was a clip of George Carlin, the comedian, stand-up comedian, Rufus from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. And he was saying exactly the same joke about hats, about like, these people have to wear hats, these people don't wear hats. I was like, oh my God, I've never seen that before. I was like, oh, damn, Everyone's going to think I stole that joke off George Carlin now. I genuinely had not seen it before. I just think it's a good question to ask. Does God wear a hat? Does God give a fuck? But yeah, there's a famous line. I don't know who said it. It's probably attributed to Voltaire or something. But it's if triangles had a god, he would have three sides. Which is, yeah, very true. Non-binary people in church have to cover a certain amount of their heads depending on their mask-femme ratio. And Knight says, and yes, Graham, they do. Have you seen that husky bark in Italian accent on YouTube? And no, it's not AI or edited. No, it genuinely is. They adopt accents depending on the accent of their owner, I think. Or maybe it's the accents of the other dogs in the area, but they do have accents. I want a hat like our Charles. I think it would suit me. Many Jewish women wear wigs instead, don't they? Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure exactly what the rules are there, but yeah, it's a bit of a weird one, isn't it? It's a bit of a weird one. Anyway, talking about a bit of a weird one, it's me. I'm going to be back at, I think I'll come back at, because it's 20 past now, so I'll come back at, I've got to reset my fucking computer. All right, so I get my computer reset. I'll be back here at, let's say 2 o'clock to right some more wrongs. I'll be doing that until 5. So if you would like to join me in that, please come on. And don't forget, I keep saying this, but if you're not interested in literally hearing the sound of it, me type it away and some words coming up on the screen as I write them and as I change them and as I decide a better way of saying them and as I edit and as I decide to leave it, it's good enough, I'll come back to it later. Please don't watch it. Please don't watch it and come over and go, oh, this is really boring. All right, please don't do that because I know it's boring. I'm not doing it to entertain. I'm doing it to get my arse in gear to write the sequel to Man of the World, Top of the World, and we're up to chapter 7. So if you want to join me for that, that'll start at 2 o'clock. And then at 6 o'clock today, I'm going to get oh shit, I haven't done that. I'll do it now. I'll do it while the credits are rolling. I need to get in touch with our man, Mike Dix, to see if he wants to come onto the rabbit holes where we can rabbit on about anything but politics. All right, so until then, just want to say thank you so much for watching. You're amazing. You are awesome. Thanks for taking part. And everyone who's joined in the chat there, thank you so much. If you'd like to give us a thumb up before you go, that's always good. And subscribe to the channel, please. And also hit the bell notification icon for more information. So thanks very much. I'm going to give that a whole PMQs shit. I'm going to give it 1 out of 10. And that was because there was that moment when Starmer stood up and said to the crook, Richard Lice, he said to him, "Stop evading tax." That's the only reason you get a 1. Everyone else gets 0. Anyway, so thanks very much for watching, and until we meet again, I'll say hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.